All right, so once we left Nafplio, then we were going to drive to the city or the ruins of Delphi. And again, Delphi is one of those places where if you're in Athens, they actually have day tours that go up to Delphi. So we were in Nafplio, which is on the Peloponnesian Peninsula, kind of west and south of Athens. And we had time, we had a van. We're like, let's drive all the way out to the coast. And then there was a city called Petrus, which had a bridge across, and over on that bridge, if you kept going west, you would go out into the sea, and then you would eventually hit Italy. So a very western part of Greece. And so from Nafplio, it took us about 3 hours. And honestly, we're from the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle area. We have what's called the Puget Sound and mountains and all that. And it was really interesting because we'd only been to the Greek islands, which is a very different topography, different look and feel because of this really reminded us a little bit of the Pacific Northwest. We went across this huge bridge and then we stayed along the coast. And, looking at the map again, we had time, we gave ourselves grace, but it was, it was a windy, slow road all the way up. And it really was going up to Delphi, because we've been to Hawaii a lot of times. It had this look of some of the Hawaiian islands because it shoots so far up into, and you'll see from the videos and things where you get up to this town of Delphi and the roads are narrow and windy and the views are epic and the cliffs are deep. And then when we got into the town, it was really fun for the kids to be in the town too.
Yeah, but you also get to see, like we're saying, it reminds us of the Northwest, even parts of Hawaii. But you get to see, again, ancient history. Like as we're traveling up the mountain to Delphi, we couldn't notice it on the way up, but as we traveled down, literally saw these aqueducts where we're like, oh my gosh, how long has this been here? That they're just like getting all the water down to the villages down below. It was just very fascinating.
Because the mountains, I think the mountains blew us away that they were much bigger and higher than we actually expected, that they actually get snow. And you just doesn't compute, I guess, coming from where we're from, that they like have snow and all that. And even in Helion, that's where they have the Greek ski team practices up there where the mountains are high enough, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Which even with that, when you think about how ancient this land is compared to where we're from in America, you're like, people traveled without vehicles for so long. Like it's just amazing. What I was excited to see as we pulled into Delphi, there was a sign that actually shared that Delphi, it said Delphi, the center of the world. And I was like, that's interesting. And I actually was reading a book that mentioned the word Delphi means womb in the Greek. And I thought, wow, we're traveling to Delphi. My book just mentions this, which it's, a Christian-based book about growing your purpose, your identity, and it mentions the word Delphi, womb, and the meaning of that. And here we are traveling to Delphi. But on top of that, it was exciting because we found out before the trip that we were pregnant. So I thought, well, what better place to take a pregnancy test than in the womb of the world, as they call it, Delphi. And so the whole reason that Delphi is considered the center of the world is in their Greek mythology, Zeus dropped 2 eagles, which he considered Delphi to be the center at that moment that he was going to find out, is it really? So he dropped 2 eagles at the same time and they flew across the world. And as they wrapped back around the world, they hit each other at the same point, which was Delphi. And that was the center of the world. So they called it the navel, the womb, the center of the world. So it's pretty interesting. But I thought the name womb, navel was fascinating as well. And it truly is a beautiful place for a beautiful view and a lunch with a family, or if you decide to stay there for a day.
Yeah, and you'll see in the video the town is literally on this just narrow outcropping where zigzagging through just as narrow as can be, and a ton of restaurants. And again, just like Bethany said, we found a great place. We'll put it down in the comments here of where that was. But they just love kids, so we got this whole lunch, and we always pay for our stuff, but then they gave all the kids free ice cream. And just because most of the people up there, there just weren't any kids, and that's just a lot of what travel is, and why it makes the traveling that we're doing so different, is just people are refreshed to be like, wow, next generation, new life. They're coming and seeing these places. This is fun to see them. So that's
That's very
another thing about
true.
traveling with the kids.
And on that note, after we were having lunch, about the time that we were finishing up, a bunch of people were coming in because, again, there's tours that come by.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of elderly people because a lot of people are traveling when they're retired. And what we like to help people do is learn that we live a life where we're not ever going to retire. We
Mhm.
live a life where work is joy for us, but we get to work time on our time and we get to do it with our family. So when we do business, our kids know that they're helping us do business because they're a part of our life, which is so important. And so it was really neat, again, as a reminder to be like, gosh, isn't this a blessing that we don't have to wait until we're in our 70s or beyond to go travel together, just us, but we can actually take our kids while they're in their prime and they're going to remember snippets, but we're going to have so many memories for ourselves of what we experienced together. We're able to do this now and have more energy in our body doing it now instead of in our 70s and 80s as well. So it's really wonderful.
We'll be traveling in our 70s and 80s, don't get us
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
But yes, there's a way to design your life where you can just weave these things in and not have some destination of retirement. And that's, why we teach and train people up on how to design their life to be able to do those things.